guys, I've got Penny and Jarrod here, a Moxie couple, and they got married on December 3rd. And first of all, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me. I can't wait to hear about your experience. And yeah, for the first question, I just am curious of what made you DIY your flowers in the first place?
It was mostly cost. We looked at some local florists, and a lot of places had like a $2,000 or $3,000 like minimum
Yeah.
to work with, and we just didn't need that many flowers, and we didn't really want to spend $3,000 on our flowers. We're already getting married in this really pretty like outdoor garden, and it had a lot of natural beauty, and we didn't need a bunch of floral arrangements. So we started looking into it and figured we could save a lot of money and probably do it ourselves.
Yeah, it's always that $2,000-$3,000 minimum is always like a pretty big sticker shock, and typically it won't really cover, like installations or more elaborate things. And as a florist, I had the minimum, which is kind of why I started Flower Moxie. But yeah, like I'm like, that's kind of like a used Civic. Yeah, how did you find Flower Moxie?
I think I was just Googling around. I think I had looked at some various like Reddit posts and people who had done their own flowers, and I started looking into DIY flowers. And originally I found a lot. There were like quite a few different places, but I remember kind of specifically why I picked Flower Moxie was I was looking through like YouTube videos, and I was watching videos of people making arrangements to try to figure out if I could do it myself. And there was one video where someone was arranging flowers on a wheelchair. And I'm a physical therapist. I work in a spinal cord injury unit. I work on a lot of wheelchairs. I prescribe wheelchairs every day. I customize wheelchairs every day. I know like what an important mobility aid they can be for people. And I watched this video, and I remember the person in the video really like took their time and care with it. And it didn't just feel like, oh, we're decorating a wheelchair with flowers to be inclusive. Like they were thinking about like the functionality and the wheelchair user and like all of those things. And I was like, okay, well, I'm not going to do any more research. I'm just going to get my flowers from here.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, I was so excited to have the opportunity to do that tutorial. And she was kind enough to lend her extra chair. And so I was nervous, going into it because I didn't want to do something wrong.
It took the wheelchair user into account, which is it just made me happy to see that. And I felt like, okay, this is a good company. This is a company who I want to give my business to and support.
So what was your inspiration like for your colors? And yeah, like was it stressful picking your color palette?
We both really know what we like. And what we like is like fall kind of colors, like that, like kind of like rusty orange and like deep kind of jewel tony greens and things like that. We those are just the general colors we like decorate our house with, and we like in kind of a general sense.
Yeah,
so
and like already like fits kind of into our wardrobe and just things like that. And so yeah, it was, I don't know, there wasn't too much like back and forth about what colors we were gonna do, I don't think.
Yeah, we're pretty similarly matched. And then we looked at the kits, and that was really helpful because the idea of like totally starting from scratch would be probably a little bit overwhelming. But we looked at those pre-made kind of bundles, and we just
Yeah.
that we thought was the closest match. And I think we added like one or two things to it maybe, but we picked the one that we thought was the closest match to kind of what we like. And I think they turned out really great.
Nice. Well, I do too. Like, I think they're absolutely beautiful. Which package size did you go with, and what were kind of your add-ons, and did you have any substitutions?
So we had, I think, the small package size. We didn't need that many florals. I had a bouquet. We had 5 bridesmaids. We had 4 groomspeople. We did did like boutonnieres and corsages for our parents. So we had more than enough flowers to do the 5 of us. And I think we got one of the kits that was like technically out of season because
Okay.
the fall kit, and it was like available September and November or something, but we were right at the beginning of December. So we said, hey, we like the color scheme. I don't really care, what specific flowers are in here. Make as many substitutions as you need, and just this general color scheme. And I think it worked out pretty well. I know we had a couple, because I kept getting emails like, I hope it's okay that we substituted this flower. And I would always respond, yeah, sure, it's fine. As long as it doesn't come in like hot pink, I'm happy.
Yeah, it sounds like you were in the perfect like mental space of just knowing what you like and being flexible at the same time.
Yeah, the thing for us too is you were going to wear your little corsage or your little boutonniere all night. Mm-hmm. And I was going to hold my flowers for all of like 45 minutes max. And then they were going to get set down and I was going to dance. So I was like, I'm not going to be too precious about like trying to make this totally exactly perfect, because that's just stress that I don't need.
That's so, can you do a TED talk for like future brides? Because it's true. I mean, it's a very special day, and your flowers, some people have more importance on the flowers than others, but yeah, at the end of the day, you'll hold it for about 30 minutes and, set it on the cake table, and, that'll be pretty much it. So it's important to get what you like. But at the end of the day, I think it is wise to just, kind of keep that in mind so you can enjoy yourself better.
Yeah, I'm usually a type A, super stressed about everything. I don't know what it was about the flowers. They were just probably one of the more easy, less stressful parts of the wedding.
What was like the most stressful part for you leading up to your wedding?
The weather, because we chose to have an outside wedding, and for the 7 years prior to this, it has not rained on that date. And guess what it did? It rained, but just a little bit, and it ended up being fine. But it was a lot of like, will it, won't it? Do we get the tent?
And like we put the deposit down on the tents, and then it was like, well, we could do one tent in one section in case we need it. And then it's like, at one point we were going to do just like a small tent just to stash all the like sound equipment under until the rain passed. But I mean, yeah, it went about as well as it could have, I think.
Yeah, that was the worst part leading up, was stressing about, is it going to rain or not? Because we didn't want to put tents up because we thought our venue was so pretty without it. We wanted the like open air kind of feel, but we also didn't want our guests to leave because they were wet. And it ended up raining like probably the hour before our ceremony started.
Yeah, we got like a little bit of drizzle during the first look pictures. And then by the time we got to the ceremony, everything was fine.
Yep.
So after you purchased your flowers, did you do like a deep dive into education, or were you just kind of like, when I get them, I'll figure it out? Like, what was your approach?
The opposite for you, I think.
Yeah, I did all the like videos and education beforehand, because I didn't want to commit not knowing whether or not I could do it, because I knew that would stress me out. So I spent a couple weeks where just like I would watch videos of floral arrangements in my free time, and I started following people on Instagram, and I went to a grocery store and I got Trader Joe's flowers, and I made 2 bouquets one weekend, and they weren't great, but I was like, I can do this. I feel like I have enough of an idea. I didn't totally hate every second of this, and I can make something passable. And then I didn't touch it again until the flowers came. Like I didn't do like 10, 20 practice bouquets. I made 2. I figured enough out, and then said, I can do it from here.
I feel like 2 is good, because I think it's just that initial like intimidation. And did you feel kind of proud of yourself? Like they probably weren't the exact flowers that you wanted, but when you built it, were you just kind of like, damn, I can do it?
I was surprised by the amount I wasn't stressed out about it. I was afraid that I was going to be really stressed out by it, and by it like not looking right. But I don't know if it's like the flowers, or if it just kind of like we were going for kind of like an organic look, right? So it was a little easier to accomplish than something really like prim and polished and perfect. Yeah, and I was really proud of my 2 little bouquets. I took pictures and I showed them to everyone at work, and I was like, I think I'm going to do my own flowers. Look at this.
Did they think that you were crazy?
Everyone thought I was crazy.
And now do you get to be all smug?
Oh, absolutely.
And I think like when you have good flowers, I mean, it's kind of hard to screw them up. I mean, I would say when I was like a new florist, I probably screwed them up a few times. Like I look back, I'm like, I'm not really proud of that one. But yeah, I feel like if you know enough to be dangerous and you have some good product, then yeah. How many helpers did you have? And was it hard to round up helpers?
The days we were doing flowers, we did DIY'd quite a few things, and Jared DIY'd a lot of our sound equipment.
Ooh,
So on days that I was doing flowers, he was doing sound. So he wasn't really around to help with flowers because he was getting all of the sound equipment right and working and in order. And I had my mom, I had his mom, and I had two friends on two different days. Uh,
nice.
so what was most helpful about that structure is on days everybody was equally helpful for, like prepping everything and like stripping off extra leaves and, getting everything out of the box. That was pretty easy. But on the days where we were arranging, we kind of did like a team, like it was me and my mom, and it was his mom and one of my friends. So like that one of my friend Olivia who helped had more of like my vision in her head. I think
Yeah.
our parents did. Um, it was helpful to have like each person who kind of knew what the flower should look like on a little team with our parents who helped like like, oh, these two colors look like they're close together, let's like break that up kind of thing, or like hand me one of these kind of things. So we had like two kind of like little teams, and that was a pretty efficient way for us to do it, I think.
Did you do like a mock-up? Like kind of have one that you're like, this is what we're going for. So like Aunt Blanche just doesn't go off on her own.
So we did like we took the formulas and I like wrote them out, and I put them up, and then I had everybody come and I made a bridesmaid's bouquet by myself, and I like talked them through. I was like, okay, this is what I'm starting with, and like this is what I'm going for, and it says I need another one of these flowers, so I'm going to take another one of these flowers, and we like made one bridesmaid's bouquet, and then we made my bouquet because we wanted to pick all the nicest flowers
Yes.
while they were still available. So then we all kind of made mine together. And then after making those two, we had a good idea of how to proceed from there. And I think what we ended up doing actually was we only needed 5 bouquets for the bridesmaids, but we made 6. We
Oh,
were
nice.
had enough that we were able to make a spare one. And then on the day of, we used that in some like extra background shots, and we also had it like in case something happened to one. Nothing happened to any of them, and we just got to pick the 5 prettiest ones out of the 6 we made.
Yeah. And it's always good to just have the extra to hand off to a photographer, because they'll do those like flat lay pictures, or if you're going to do a toss bouquet or something like that. So what do you feel like the hardest part was? Like, do you feel like it was the prep work or the design or the boutonnieres or?
I think the hardest part was like relaxing my hand grip enough to like move the flowers. But it was something I definitely got better at the more I did it. And it was something where it was nice to have like 2 people on our little, like when we did little teams, like if I was like, oh no, I'm about to drop this, like someone could come and like help and save me if I needed some help.
So did you enjoy the process of DIYing your flowers? Like, was it stressful leading up to the wedding, or was it kind of like a meditative, like I get to put my head in this and not think of other stuff that I'm stressed about?
I'd say I was pretty neutral about it. It wasn't like the best part of the wedding planning process, but it was by no means bad at all. It also, like, we did a lot of our stuff ourselves, and I think it was really nice for our moms to both feel like they were really like involved in something, and they were, because a lot of the other kind of planning and logistics, we really took care of a lot of that ourselves. I know sometimes people's parents give them a lot of help with that kind of stuff, and go to all the tastings and the venue tours, and we mostly did that on our own. So I think if anything, it was really fun for them too.
It's kind of like a paint and palette, they get to go in and be creative. And I think that's so true. I feel like back in the day, it was like the moms would pretty much handle everything. And now these days, because everything is just on social media and through email, couples mainly knock it out themselves. So then the parents feel a bit left out. So that completely makes sense. Um, do you feel like in the end it was worth the savings? Like for the $3,000 versus okay. If you could go back and do something differently, what is there anything that you would like say, oh, I wouldn't have gone with that flower, like I didn't enjoy working with that one, or I would have, you know, yeah, done something different with what you did with your florals?
I would say if anything, if you have like any of those like really pretty little kind of like delicate show stopping kind of flowers, if you have any of those and you're really attached to them, maybe get an extra of them just in case. We had what were they? We had scabiosas in ours,
Yeah.
and we had gel packs to keep everything cool, and one of the gel packs burst, and one of the things
no.
that got was one of the scabiosas, and we had 2 bundles, so it was fine, we had enough. But like if you have anything that's particularly like, if your heart is set on one kind of flower, maybe order a little bit extra, that way you can just have your pick of the bunch. But it turned out fine. I just hit all the uglier flowers in the bridesmaid.
I just like, yeah, because I, as a florist, I'll have lost like, you were so smart to gather up your bridal flowers first. And when I was a new florist, I would do my bridal bouquet last because that was the thing that would stress me out the most. And then what I realized is I had like gone through and picked out like the best flowers and put them in bridesmaids and centerpieces, and I'd have to go back and take them out. So I think it is really smart to get those set aside. But yeah, if you have an ugly one, you kind of bury it down in, that way it's not just sticking out on its own.
And then you just kind of squish it down in there.
What was your loss? Like, do you feel like you had like 5 or 10% loss or less or more?
It was definitely less than that. It was there was like one thing of, I think, mums, like little, like small, little regular mums, not the big pretty football mums. And there was one thing of scabiosas that the gel pack kind of burst on a little bit. And out of those, probably 50% of each one of those were fine. And then everything else was fine. So, and we had more flowers than what we needed. Like we did not run out of flowers. They were just sitting around in little trash bags or little trash cans. When we were done, like we had extra of everything. So we didn't like feel the loss when we were arranging our bouquets and everything else because we had more than we needed. So it wasn't too stressful.
Yeah. And then we just kind of like based how y'all ended up doing like the corsages and boutonnieres and stuff, like off of what was left over after we finished all of the bouquets.
That's so smart because like to make those small things, people will email us and they're like, hey, I need to add on to my order. I'm adding 2 boutonnieres. I'm like, you don't need to add to your order. Like boutonnieres and corsages are just like the trash. Did you find that kind of the case as you just kind of look through the scraps and you're like, oh, I have enough to make 80 of these?
Oh yeah, we had so many of like I think we had like spray roses, and then like they'd be kind of wonky. So you're like, okay, I'm going to snip these 2 off so that it goes in an arrangement better. And then we had a whole bunch of like little like shot glasses and tiny little like full of like, okay, well, here are a bunch of random thistles, and like here are a bunch of random little carnation bits or rose bits. We had a ton of those just like around, and then we just pulled everything out and we made boutonnieres, and then our moms both made all of the little corsages, and I just was like, here's a piece of cardboard, glue anything you want to it.
Just start gluing. Did you do like a hydration chamber?
Yeah, we did little like plastic meal prep containers with a little paper towel in it, and just set it all in there.
So is there any other things that any advice that you would give to someone considering DIYing their flowers?
I think mostly like think about what you want in your flowers. Think about how much work that's realistically going to be for you. And if you think that that's manageable, because the amount of work we took on was, it was relatively small. We made a couple bouquets, we made a couple boutonnieres. That was really all we needed. We didn't have a big need to transport like a big floral installment or 50 floral centerpieces. We had a relatively kind of small workload, and it worked out really well for us, and it was really manageable. If you have like this Pinterest perfect giant hanging floral installation as your vision,
That might be for the professionals.
Yeah. If that's really what you want, then maybe doing it yourself isn't for you, or you better have some real committed helpers who can get up on that ladder before your reception, hang up those flowers.
Exactly. I think installs are the hardest thing. Bouquets and boutonnieres, you can do in advance. Centerpieces, you can do in advance, but installations typically have to be done, the day of. So if someone is able to get in that morning and they have helpers to go in, maybe they've practiced with some forage things. But yeah, that's kind of the part where I get nervous, is if like a custom design, if they want to do day of installs, because I don't think that always works great for DIY, because the day of your wedding, you just want to be a bride. So
and you want your family to be able to enjoy your wedding, like as good of health as your family members can be and often are. You don't want them like sweating trying to put all your stuff together hours before your wedding. You want them to be able to, enjoy it too. And thankfully our family was awesome and able to help set up a lot of our stuff, like our sound and our other kind of decor items. But we tried to not give them an unmanageable amount of things to let them also hang out and enjoy.
And last question, how long do you think it took you? Like by the time you started doing your designs, how long did you guys spend on it?
Gosh, I don't know, because we were kind of doing like more than one thing at once. We were dealing with some sound equipment logistics and also putting flowers together. I think maybe for all the bouquets, because that's what took the longest and that's what we were most like dedicated to doing, it took us maybe 3 hours.
Yeah.
And that's with me like showing them, okay, here's an example bouquet and making one.
Including
and
like
making
the prep work
mine.
from the day before.
No, the prep work put more time onto that too. But the prep work was easy. We just kind of sat around and chit chat and snipped thorns off of things.
Yeah. Big mess.
What we did, which I thought worked out really well for us, is we did this on our dining room table, which is quite large. We put a sheet out over it, and then we put a roofing tarp over it.
Oh, so wow.
That way we weren't afraid of like spilling water, and like if water spilled and got under a vase, we didn't have to like lift it up and dry it off so we wouldn't damage our wood table. And it was a nice big work surface. And at the end, we just swept it all off, rolled it all.
Man, that is so neat. I'm gonna have to look into that and try that, because that might be a really good recommendation of just laying it over. That way you don't have to worry about the water. Oh man, well, thank you so much for just taking the time out and telling me your experience and letting us show off your beautiful pictures. And yeah, I'm so proud of you guys, and thank you.
Thank you. It was a great experience.